And we are live. Welcome to Skip It or Stream It, the show that talks about movies on Netflix and Amazon Prime, shows that you can, movies you can stream, stuff that you can watch. When you're sitting at home and you're like, I don't know what to watch, you can come to our channel here. You can check out some great movies, reviews from the three of us, and then go out and pick based on our selections. Perry and I have been doing this. I think this is our 4th or 5th episode now. We have an awesome guest for you tonight, Mr. I Like Turtles himself, Bueller. How you doing, man?
I'm really honored to be on the hunt. I've always wanted to be on the hunt. I got my books ready to go, and it should be a lot of good show. Slab Down, another one I'm really excited to be on. Very happy to be on Slab Down. So let's get this party started. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, you gotta have a wrestler persona to be on here, right?
Man.
Aren't you gonna like talk big and get a wig or something?
I don't need to do the talking. My action happens in the ring.
Ooh, there it is. Look at that. Perry, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a pretty eventful day. I was able to watch a movie. I played some video games. I went to Dunkin' Donuts. It was very good.
Time. In Perry's world, those things all happen simultaneously.
Pretty much, yes.
Well, I'm proud of him because we forced an extra movie on him this round. Yeah. We have 4 movies to share with you tonight because, as I've mentioned on several shows the last couple of weeks, I found a huge blind spot in our man Perry's knowledge base, and I had to plug it up. It was not going to slip by me. So several people joked and guessed last time we went through it. I would say Bueller of Comics, who was our first person in the chat tonight, he guessed it correctly last time. So in a moment, we will reveal that movie for all of you. But let me jump in there. I saw the green hearts, which always tell me my man Sam's Tangled Web in the chat. Thank you, buddy. Carlito Classico, our original first guest on this show, brought in some great gangster movies, including The Score, like a heist movie, The Score with De Niro. We got Perry in the chat talking about Trainwreck coming. Yeah, you better be ready. He's going to lose some subscribers today. Immortal Biggie Shack in the chat. Nerd Talk with Bueller. If you don't know, there's this other guy with his own channel titled Bueller called Nerd Talk with Bueller. You should check it out. He goes live a bunch at all different times. You never know. So if you want less edited, more live content, check that channel out. Poor Mike in the chat. I got issues. My buddy Chris in the chat. I know he was excited to have a show that was more appropriately timed for East Coast viewers. Not like Perry's late night or the usual West Coast time frames. And let's see. Discovery Bay, thank you for coming by. Much appreciated. JB he's been doing some great videos. His 200th episode of his What's On Today was a great episode. You should check it out. Just aired Friday, I believe. Jeff Comic 813. I was hanging out with him and Mr. Robert Galvin last night. A lot of fun. You should check that out if you haven't seen that. And all right, people are ready to go. So welcome in. Bueller, are you a movie fan first off? Like, you seem like somebody, you and I, we've talked movies a few times. How do you feel about movies?
I've seen at least 10 of them, and we're going to talk about 4 of them here today. So that's pretty good. So out of the 10 I've seen, the simple fact that I've seen all 4 of the movies that we're going to talk about, that's a pretty good odds.
That's in the win column.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm a big movie fan. Growing up, my dad and my stepmom kind of worked in the movie industry or TV industry, so we always watched movies. We had a big, huge projector. We had the laser disc. We had all that stuff before everyone else. So yeah, definitely the movies that we're going to talk about. Definitely the first one. I saw it in the theater, which is awesome. But big movie fan and very excited to be talking about it.
All right, Perry, are you ready to start some fires here, buddy?
Yes, I also have seen 10 movies, so we have that in common.
Hey,
and they all have Christian Bale.
Pretty much.
All right, folks, so here it is. Here's the reveal. The movie that Perry had not seen until a week ago. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Ladies and gentlemen, all-time epic, great movie. And Perry is about to light some fires. I want to start off by saying I just finished a show on Thursday, the greatest movies of the 70s. And when we were done, we started saying, well, we should do greatest movies of the 80s. And I said, if we do, I'm going to spoil one of the 5 movies I would pick as the greatest movies from the 1980s. And it is this movie right here, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981.
Wow.
I usually type up a little description for the movies we do on this show. I did not need to do that for this one. Directed by Steven Spielberg, this is one of his biggest hits early in his career. Harrison Ford coming off of 2 Star Wars movies, Empire and the original, and then now dropping in to be Indiana Jones himself. I loved this movie the first time I saw it, and I have adored it more every time I've seen it. It is full of action. It is full of adventure. It is like the second half is almost nonstop, wall-to-wall moments, from escaping snakes and fighting Nazis on airplanes to riding a horse to sliding under trucks. I mean, it is just an insane bit of stunt work, editing, action, and just music. The music, John Williams kills it in this movie. I absolutely love every frame. It is one of my all-time favorite movies, much less obviously from the 80s. So I adore this movie. Bueller, before we get to Perry, Bueller, what are your thoughts on Raiders of the Lost Ark?
It's iconic. It's a movie that you can watch any year, any time, and never gets old. I remember seeing it. It came out in 1981. Obviously, like you said, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. It's written by George Lucas as well. So anytime you have those 2 guys teamed up. And then you got to also think in 81, that's right when Harrison Ford, he just got done with Empire Strikes Back. And then he hits you with this Raiders of the Lost Ark and introduces Indiana Jones. It's a no-brainer. It's easily one of the top 10 movies of all time. The boulder scene in the first 10 minutes of the movie, come on. I mean, that had me hooked. I saw it when I was 7 years old, and trust me, I had to go get the toys. They had a toy line. I had to go get them and recreate the boulder scene with the rocks in my backyard. That's was awesome. Phenomenal. I mean, I don't even know where to begin because there's so many moments in this movie, like the fight scene when the guy gets chopped up by the blades from the plane. Yeah. The simple cool factor of when he gets in the fight in the streets and he just takes out his gun and shoots the guy after this guy does a big sword thing. I mean, come on. That's iconic.
Absolutely.
Only certain actors can play certain roles. Nobody else can play Indiana Jones but Harrison Ford. And it just goes hand in hand. Same thing with Han Solo. Only one actor can do it, and this is the guy.
Absolutely. Great. As well said, man. You mentioned the writing, too. Before we go to Perry, Perry, you're next.
Oh, man.
The idea of this character came from Spielberg and Lucas on a vacation together and coming up with what they wanted to do as a storyline. And then they drafted it. And then a really great guy named Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back and worked a little bit on Return of the Jedi as well, came in and wrote the screenplay for this. Yep. Later, he had films like The Big Chill, Silverado. He's a really, really talented guy in his own right. And absolutely. Just everybody top to bottom on this film. Amazing. So everybody, Perry, what do you think?
This was a fantastic. No, I honestly.
Hold on. I want to see Perry's face on
what
the screen.
What do you mean? Wait, you don't got to see someone else's face.
Put Perry's on the screen for this. Because if he's going to say this blasphemy, I want to look at this guy right at his face.
Oh, big screen, Perry. I'm Big Perry. All right, let's be real. When I was 7 years old, I was watching The Matrix. So this movie doesn't maybe if I was born 30 years ago, for me, I was watching the movie. I'm like, all right, this is what's the budget for this movie? I don't know. The movie didn't seem like it was too action-packed or it didn't seem too realistic. It was just I get it. Something my dad would enjoy when he was a kid. It was just not my cup of tea. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to please the masses. I just that's how I felt about it.
Oh, man. Where Mike says he almost got picked for the stunt show version of this at Hollywood Studios back in the day. That's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
Oh, man. Important question. Has Perry seen Temple of Doom? So I got issues. This all started because we were talking, Perry and I, and he mentioned, sorry, I'll go back to the triple screen here, whatever. There he is. Hide him. Just perfectly hide him. He mentioned, Indiana Jones, the one, I didn't really like it. The one, where the guy pulls the guy's heart out of his chest. And I was like, that's the sequel. Have you seen the original movie? And it was like, I don't know. And so then I sent him all the GIFs I could find on Instagram that had Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I put them in chronological order. So it was like the movie as GIFs, like just in order. And he was like, "No, I've never seen any of this before."
How dare you, Perry?
And I was like, "Well, we have to do this."
Oh man, how dare you, sir? I'm sorry.
Let me ask Perry a couple questions real quick. So
I
Perry,
would love this. Yes.
Let's kind of break it down a little bit. So for one, the music score for the movie. Did you enjoy that part? Because that's iconic music. I thought
score. Look, there were things about the movie that I liked. The music, oh man, the music was good. I like Harrison Ford as an actor. I like seeing him on screen. The movie wasn't a bad movie at all. Just, is it something I want to sit down and watch? It's just not my cup of tea, you know? Just the way, like, how it looks so old, you know?
It looks so old. What the hell?
Maybe they remastered it or something, or they did like a sequel, modern day sequel.
They did do a sequel of modern day, and that was garbage.
Yeah, so it just makes you feel like
garbage.
It's a garbage movie.
And they even brought back the original female headliner for the movie for the remake, and it was horrible.
Yep.
Oh man,
I love this chat. I love
Perry, you are the Shia LaBeouf of the Indiana Jones comic book YouTube. That's what you are, man. Shia LaBeouf. Right there.
Oh man, I'm sorry, man.
Just throw Perry in the snake pit. Not everything can be Detective Pikachu.
I never seen that either, you know.
Okay.
Oh
so
man,
I gotta say this. Perry is letting us throw some darts at him. I appreciate his attitude. And it's definitely not a popular opinion to come on and talk. But I will say he's made a good, in some ways or another, a decent point that somebody raised potentially on like digital effects and the Matrix, like he's saying.
Like Bueller, you said you were 7 when you seen this, so there was nothing like this until you seen it, and you're like, wow, This is mind blowing. But to me, I was watching The Matrix. I was watching anime.
I watched Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. So yeah,
those were very fresh and recent.
If you're talking, what do you mean they're before? Star Wars came out in '77, the year the Trailblazers.
You know what I mean, though.
1979 is the year when Empire Strikes Back came out. I believe in 1981 or '82 is when Return of the Jedi came out. 2 of those movies came out before this. As far as special effects goes, Star Wars had special effects in it. Different type of special effects, but honestly, I think the special effects in this movie makes it look more real. I think a lot of the special effects these days, they have that cartoony look to them. I mean, you were talking about The Matrix, okay? And let me just talk about the second movie of The Matrix.
I only see the first one.
When they have the big fight scene with all the Agent Smith or whatever his name is, that looks so horrible. You can tell it's computer generated. It's all animated. All the Neo scenes, the close-ups of them fighting, it looks awful. I much rather like the old effects. Nobody's going to sit there and tell you, man, those the prequels to the Star Wars movies look great. No, they look horrible. They look horrible. The original Star Wars movies look better than the prequels by far. I'm pissed.
Man, I get it, but it's like when they were in the airplane, it looks like they put a backdrop and threw rollers on the backdrop to make it look like they were flying when they weren't really flying.
You mean when they're showing like the map and they're flying over the map?
No, when they're legitimately flying in the airplane.
Did you watch
They're actually flying, I think, in that sequence, but okay.
There's no way. No way.
I know what he's talking about, but I think that's in a different movie.
No.
He's got the snake in his lap right at the beginning.
He's got the snake in his lap. He's like, is there a snake in here?
That's real.
That's real flying.
That don't look real to me, man.
And I will say this. It's possible that, like I was saying at the beginning, that somebody who's grown up with digital effects, seeing a movie that is all practical, except for a couple of sequences, that this movie, they legitimately were fighting under and around an airplane. They were legitimately like knocking down walls with statues and things. They're legitimately doing a lot of these things, dropping Harrison Ford in front of a snake, even though there's a pane of glass.
And you can see it. You can see the reflection on the glass.
You can see the glass.
I love it.
They're legitimately doing these things. They were dragging Harrison Ford behind a car. The actor Harrison Ford, holding onto a rope. Like they were legitimately doing these things instead of like green screening it all together. But that could be something that maybe a younger viewer would be like, eh.
How old is Perry?
I am 20. I just turned 26.
Oh my God.
I've got sandwiches older than you. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, it's okay. I'm raising 2 kids.
You know what, Perry? I'll set up a play date with you and my son. How about that?
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Somebody made a comment earlier that they feel like it's possible they enjoyed the new version. Oh, sorry, unpopular opinion. I loved Crystal Skull, but not Shia LaBeouf. Well, Carlito, that is definitely an unpopular decision, but I'll let you go. We're clearly having a few of those tonight, so be ready.
Yep.
Obviously, this is a 10 out of 10 for me and a stream it. Bueller, I'm assuming you're the same.
Before I get to my grade, I want to just point out a couple things so I can crush Perry as hard as I can. This picture won 4 Oscars. It was also nominated for Best Special Effects, which it won, by the way.
Yep.
It was also nominated for Best Picture. It was also nominated for Best Director for Oscars. For you to sit there and say it's not a good movie, my God!
Hey, I just sat there.
What
I just
is
watched
happening?
the movie. I'm like, it doesn't float down my stream.
What's that knockoff Indiana Jones movie that came out, The Kingdom or something like that?
Oh gosh, what is that one?
That's what Perry should.
Quartermain in the Lost City of Gold.
Yeah, that's what Perry should be watching. That's your movie right there. Do me a favor. Do not watch any more Indiana Jones movies. You disgrace it.
Unless I'm forced to.
Well, look, I can completely cover Perry now with a comment. CGI has been overblown. I agree.
That's some good CGI right there.
CGI has gone definitely too far overall. I agree with that comment, Carlito. So Bueller, skip it, stream it.
Obviously, stream it. As far as the grade goes, I mean, it doesn't get much better. 9 or 10, whatever you want to pick. 9, 10. Right up there.
And for everybody who tonight, all these films are on Netflix right now, so you can go and watch them. If you get tired of hearing us jab, go and check out the movie and watch it again for yourself. It's all here. So, Perry,
yes.
What's your vote?
I'm gonna give it a 7.0.
Garbage.
You know.
So that's a stream it, I'm assuming, not a skip it.
That is a stream it and rewatch it to realize that it's not a good movie.
Wow. Oh, that last comment.
Oh, man, I'm just kidding.
Holy
God.
God.
I mean, I get it. It's an iconic movie. It's, nostalgic, and it's just, I'm good.
The only reason I'm not putting Perry in timeout is because the next movie that we're going to talk about is his movie, the movie he picked this round.
Well, talk about worse.
Talk about a dumpster fire.
This is a horrible movie, and I apologize for making you guys watch this.
Special effects my ass.
Oh my gosh. This is
oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I don't even want to say anything.
Here we go.
Oh man.
There you go, Perry.
All right. No surprise, I chose another Christian Bale movie this week. It's called Hostiles, and it came out in 2017. The movie is about Bale as a Civil War soldier working on the frontier who is catching a Native American or any Native American that the government asks him to bring in. He is clearly driven by a hatred for the Indians in part of the country, in his part of the country, and has a zero mercy for any of them or their situation. He's forced by his commanding officer to grant a pardon and transport a dying chief and his family back to their ancestral lands safely. The journey is one of heartbreaking action and sorts of personal growth that occurs when people are forced to travel through dangerous parts of the world together.
Wow. I want you to know I wrote it, and it's way better than that.
No, it is not. It is filled with grammatic mistakes.
Wow.
Oh, man. Whew. This movie sucked. I'm sorry. I apologize. This is a horrible movie. I had to crank my volume to 100% to listen to what was going on.
That's in my notes. I had the same thing written down in my notes. I couldn't hear half the things they were saying.
I don't understand it. I literally had to rewind it to listen. Like, I walked up to my TV to understand why are you whispering if there's nobody around you? What?
Oh man.
McDonald said he fell asleep. Yes, this is if you want to go to bed on Netflix, this is what you put on.
If you want to
All
feel
right.
bad about yourself, this is what you put on.
Oh yeah. And it was like kind of brutal in the beginning with like seeing like children murdered. Like I was not expecting that. And it kind of just like almost for no reason, you know? I don't know. I felt like they didn't need to put that in the movie at all.
Something is killing the children.
There it is.
And it's this movie.
It's this movie.
It's this movie.
Oh man. So Bueller, what clearly we got Perry's opinion. What did you think?
It was horrible. I mean, it was literally, it was just, I have it broken down. Okay. I broke it down in the parts. And let me kind of, first thing, we got Christian Bale. He's the main character. He plays Captain Joseph Blocker. Just horrible.
I don't even know that I remembered his last name.
Rosamund Pike, she plays the woman. Horrible. Wes Studi, he played the chief. Horrible. I mean, just go down the list. They're all horrible. But basically, this is like Perry said in his little intro that John had to write for him. but basically, the Christian Bale character has to escort this chief all the way across, the plains or United States, whatever, because he's dying. It's his last wish. And the chief is, he's performed a lot of atrocities and stuff like that in his past. So there's a lot of bad blood between these two gentlemen. But he's got a group of his soldiers with him, and then the chief has a group of his family with him. As they go along, everybody dies. And they just keep on dying. And not only do they all die, but they get to a town and add more people to their group, and then they die. They run into the original Indians that they in the very beginning of the movie, because the beginning of the movie has the lady with her family, and they get slaughtered. I mean, within the first 2 minutes, all 3 of her children are dead. Her husband's dead. They cut his head off or whatever, and she's hiding in the woods. Horrible, okay? Fast forward to the part where they're going down the country. They run into the same group of Indians after they've found this lady hanging out in their burned down house with their dead children tucked away in like their beds, and she's holding on to one of her dead children, and she won't let go. They run into this group again. That group kills a whole bunch more people, and then I don't know what happens, but later on they go and they're moving again, and they find those the Indians, and they're dead too. They're like hung up in a tree. Who did that? Who did that? I still don't. Was it the other Indians did it? I don't know. But the guys who attacked them ended up all slaughtered, hung up in a tree. I don't know what happened there. Okay.
Oh, man.
Then, like I said, let me keep going because I got it all written down.
I thought he was wrapping up. He's picking up pace.
Oh no, he's just getting started.
Let's see. I got the Indians in the tree. Okay, I got that one. They make it to the town. Okay, the lady's devastated, but she wants to go with them again. And since they lost half of their team, they add a bunch more soldiers, including this like fugitive soldier that's going to be hung or whatnot. He has to escort him as well. So they're going along, and they camp out, and then the females, of course, they go off on their own, and they get abducted by like these miners or whatnot. And then so they come and they beat up the women, abduct the women, and then they have to go rescue the women. More people die. They kill all the people. And after the fact, when they already freed the women, they freed them and then killed all the people. They didn't just turn around, okay, let's just get out of here. No, we're going to go and kill everybody. So more people die. Okay, next section.
This is like Wolf Warner. Next up.
Then they go camping, and one of the guys in the group, one of the captain's main friend, he's like got major depression. He basically just wants to kill himself. He's ashamed of what he's done. And then the fugitive guy, he like gets free. He kills somebody in the group, and then they go off and try to catch that guy. They get that guy. They kill that guy, and then the other guy kills himself, and then they find him. So now they're down to just a few people in the group. They finally get to where they're going. And let's not forget that the Indian guy has cancer and he's dying on the way there. So very depressing. They finally get to where they're going. The Indian guy died on the way there, so all for nothing. They're just there to bury him. And then the guy who owns the land comes over with like his little posse, and then they get in a big shootout. And then everybody dies except for the main character, the woman who's horrible, and some random Indian kid that now they all adopted. And that's the movie. Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. You need a review show on yourself.
Oh, my God.
Tell us how you really feel.
It was, oh, gosh. It was one of those things like, God, I'm never going to watch this again. Thank God. I'm never gonna watch it.
I waited until you were fully done to add the spoiler alert.
Trust me, I did you a favor.
Oh,
I just saved you 3 hours of anguish right there.
Oh wow! I don't know that there's much more that I need to add to this. I will recognize the writer director of the movie is his name is Scott Cooper, and he did some other films you might have seen. Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges as the guitar player, the country western guitar player. He was nominated for Best Actor for that movie. It's a good movie. You should watch that instead. He also did another movie with Christian Bale called Out of the Furnace, with Bale coming back from war, and it's about like the coal mining communities, I think, and then something about him like having to like take vengeance out, little Rambo kind of thing on some folks. Not so good of a movie from what I hear. And then Black Mass was the film he did with Johnny Depp as Whitey Bulger, the gangster, which I heard was, something in the middle there. So clearly a director that's not maybe at the peak of their skills yet at this point in their career.
I gotta show you this real quick. If you can see that up there, I have his name written down with a sad face right next to it. Scott Cooper. Sad face.
Don't watch his other movies. So yeah, I will say I love a good Western, and this is not a good Western.
No.
So there are plenty other good options. I saw some people shouting out Bone Tomahawk and 310 to Yuma. There are great Westerns out there, and this isn't one of them. This is going to be a hard skip it for me. I would probably give it, I don't know, a 3 out of 10. At least it looks like they spent money on the production. The sets and costumes and the old timey everything looked really solid. Nobody was drinking a Starbucks cup at any point. None of that kind of things. There was no CGI. It was just all kind of natural stuff. Mm-hmm. So on that side, I'll give them a few points. What about you, Perry?
This is like a 0 out of 10.
Ooh.
There is nothing. There's no redeemable quality about this movie. I'd rather watch Indiana Jones again. I do not like this movie at all. It is horrific.
The first rational thing you've said all night.
No, it's pretty bad. And then looking at some ways they were actually filming it and how there were certain camera angles, and then the audio levels were so low, and it was just like there was no point to this movie at all. I don't know who funded this, who purchased the script to this, how they got people to get on board to this is a mystery. It was horrible.
And then we go to Mr. Bueller. I think we can probably guess him as well. Skip it.
I'm going to skip it. And this thing gets a 1. And the only reason why it gets a 1 is because it has the actor from Dazed and Confused, the stoner kid. I like that guy. So right? That's the 1 point it gets, is because that's who the actor.
I had to look him up. I was like, I think this is who this is, but he's so much older. He's got a big old beard now.
And by the way, that's the guy that shoots himself in the head and commits suicide. So he must have watched the movie.
TJ says, "Oh, good. At least it's a polished turd."
Oh man.
Oh man. So I added Raiders of the Lost Ark in for this night, but the original pick that I made for tonight, the movie that we were supposed to watch originally, and Bueller was nice enough to be able to say, "Hey, it's all right. I'll do 4 movies. We'll do it anyways." I appreciate that, Mr. Bueller. We did As Good as It Gets. Let me do my quick screen share here. And this is, let's see, here we go. Ooh, there we go. The classic, in some ways, Jack Nicholson film, Helen Hunt, Greg Kinnear co-starring, Cuba Gooding Jr. This is by James L. Brooks, a really talented writer-director. This was somewhere, I think, 96. I won the Oscar in 97, so I think it came out in 96. James L. Brooks was producing, writing, directing. The film centers around Jack Nicholson as a very, very confrontationally rude, difficult gentleman to deal with, living in an apartment sort of agoraphobic, doesn't really go outside much, OCD, very controlling his space, his hand washing, his door locking, his sidewalk time outside, not stepping on cracks, going to the same restaurants every day at a certain time, and the people that have to deal with him. His neighbor next door who does art, his waitress at the restaurant he always goes to, the people that come into his gravity, his atmosphere, obviously having to deal with somebody who is this far out there in his thoughts and actions. This performance by Jack Nicholson is probably one of my favorite Jack performances. He is horribly rude, hilariously funny, and quick-witted, and just says things without any kind of filter at all. The story follows him as he has to start expanding his bubble little by little. It starts with the dog you see in the picture there. Before long, it's the waitress and the neighbor, and then the idea that somebody this far out there could maybe ground themselves even just a little bit. This movie makes me laugh every time I watch it. I think it's just hilarious. James L. Brooks is a hugely talented guy. He's got a great production company that basically has done The Simpsons from the beginning to now. He's got a real way with words and character and comedy. The top 3 actors in the film were all nominated for Oscars this year. The film was nominated for Best Picture. Helen Hunt and Nicholson won the Oscars. It's very clear why. They're just spot on talented. And then I didn't even get to all the great cameos that you get through this, like Harold Ramis, so funny. And Lawrence Kasdan, the guy who wrote Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark, is the therapist for Jack Nicholson in the movie. Great, great cameo from him as well. I love this movie. I think it's really, really great. Let's give Perry a chance to go first this time. Perry, what'd you think?
I thought it was a really good movie. I'm gonna rewatch the movie actually. I liked the movie. I thought this movie caught me off guard within the first couple minutes. It was very in your face, very something that I don't think they can make a movie like this nowadays and get away with it. No, it was really good. I liked seeing the buildup of a character be so negative and hated to slowly finding love with a dog, and then slowly getting used to being with his neighbors, and then getting used to being able to go and sit at a different table at a restaurant. You know, like just like the littlest things that's changing his entire life. And it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it. No, you're muted, John.
I'm assuming Perry's rewatching it because he was doing 10 other things at the same time. So he's got to make sure what he saw.
No, I sat down and watched it with the family. It was really good.
Your son is like learning things, right?
Yeah, you know, like, oh man, I can't even repeat. I don't feel comfortable repeating the things from the movie at this point.
Yeah, it's not something you would go around quoting what Jack Nicholson says, right?
No, not on a live stream, John.
And Bueller, I'm sure you saw this probably on its original release, like I did. What do you think?
Yeah, I have seen it when it came out. I really enjoyed it. I was really happy when you said this movie, because it gave me an excuse to go back and rewatch it, because I haven't seen it for so long. But watching the movie and watching it this time, because when it came out, it was in 1997. Obviously, I had a different outlook on life in 1997 than I do now. And now I can look at this movie and kind of appreciate what it is. And I kind of see it as all 3 of the main characters. Like you said, you have Jack Nicholson, you have Helen Hunt and Greg Kinnear, Melvin, Carol, and Simon. Okay, all 3 of the main characters are basically at a point in their lives when they are rebooting, they are restarting. The Greg Kinnear character, Simon, he basically has to reboot and restart his life because of a unforeseen incident. He's forced to reboot because he was attacked. Helen Hunt has to reboot her life because her whole thing was all about her son and taking care of her son, and now that's no longer a issue for her because the Jack Nicholson character came in there and kind of took care of it. She has to see where she stands. And then, of course, Melvin, played by Jack, he has to reboot because he just has to. I mean, he is living an isolated life. He has no interaction, and he just wants to be interactive. You can tell he wants to be. He just doesn't know how to do it. And this is what that movie is. And the car ride that these 3 share when they're going out of town is when this kind of happens, and when they all kind of realize, hey, our lives are going to change right now. And this car ride represents by the time we get back, everything's going to be different. And that's what this movie is. And the performances are excellent. Even like Cuba Gooding Jr., awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about some of the lines that were quotable lines in this. I actually have a favorite line. It's a different one, but it's an interaction between the Greg Kinnear and Jack. And Jack goes, "I'm drowning here, and you're describing the water." I love that line. It's such a great line because he's freaking out. You know, he's going through a hard time, and he's just not hearing what he wants to hear. Yeah. And I really loved it. Just one of those movies. Glad I went back and watched it here 20 some odd years later, and just seeing it from a different standpoint, you know, because it is a comedy. Let's not mistake it. It is a comedy, but it's also a coming of age type comedy with people who are already aged type thing.
Totally. That's a great way to describe it. And for me, rewatch, it's generally something I watch if I catch it playing, it's something that I watch. And I will watch it through just because it is a comedy, but there's definitely a lot of heavy moments. There are tears, there are heavy things that happen, but it always leads to what I think is more real, which is like you can look back on any moment and find humor in it or find tragedy in it. It's all perspective, and these characters are all in those moments, and you get some. I mean, everything Jack's character does could be looked at as a tragedy or a comedy. And there's so many great moments. Like he brings her a towel when she's standing there dripping on his doorstep, but he's doing it because he wants to clean the floor up where it's all getting wet on his thing.
Yeah.
He grabs it because she thinks it's a nice gesture. Doesn't realize that he's doing it for himself. You know, I just think there's so many great, clever writing and acting moments for me that make this a 9 out of 10, at least for me, and a definite stream it.
Another thing, I just love seeing Harold Ramis. You know, obviously we lost him a while back and stuff, and what a great character. I mean, Egon, Ghostbuster. Never mind.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Have you seen Ghostbusters, Barry?
Yeah, we're gonna call.
So, yeah, Harold Ramis, all-time great writer, director, actor. He did Groundhog Day. He wrote and he directed Groundhog Day, one of my all-time favorite movies. He was one of the Ghostbusters, the one with the glasses, the tall, skinny one.
Didn't he do Animal House?
Animal House, yeah. And he was, I want to say, the writer on Animal House, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then later in his career, more directing and these kind of cameos. He's even he's the doctor in this that comes to her apartment to help her.
Oh, okay.
The doctor that is hired. And then he's also Bill Murray's doctor in Groundhog Day. He got a lot of parts late in his career playing doctors to people, and he's great. Stripes.
That part was hilarious
Stripes.
though. With the doctor, it's like, well, why did he send me a doctor? He's gonna cover all the medical costs because he wants you to get back to work. Oh, what do you do for a living? I'm a waitress.
So I'm 9 out of 10. Stream it. Bueller, what do you think?
I would say probably 8 or a 9, somewhere right there. Definitely stream it. Definitely, if you saw it when it came out in the theater in 1997, do yourself a favor. Many years have passed. Go watch it. It holds up. It holds up today. So it's really cool.
Yes, it was very good.
Except for the fact that when people need cell phones, they don't pull them out. they drive somewhere and they get on the phone, a pay phone or something.
Putting a dog down a trash chute is on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, and I'll come back. Come back.
And a movie that starts like that, with somebody basically taking a cute dog and putting them down a garbage chute. There's so many places where that movie could go, right?
Oh, man.
So Perry, what's your rating?
It's an 8 out of 10. One of my favorite part of the movie is when Cuba Gooding Jr. is confronting him in the beginning of the movie, and he's like, "You think I'm scared of you? I was raised in hell. My grandmother is more frightening than you." And then later on in the movie, he says the exact same thing to the cop, and Cuba Gooding Jr. just looks back at him like, "This guy right here."
Yeah, look at this guy. Yeah, I think there's just so much room for those actors. Even like the small parts, like Skeet Ulrich from Scream plays the model that basically ruins Greg Kinnear's life. And
I felt like that part of the movie he regretted after he seen the painting. He tried to go inside and be like, "Whoa, hold on," and then it was just too late.
And he does all that work with so little to say. Right, that actor has just silence and facial expressions to play that off.
Oh,
and again, Greg Kinnear at this point in his career had done very little movie work. He was more of like a TV show comedy guy, and he blows the doors off the place. He is amazing. So that brings us to our final film, Bueller's film. Let me get the banner ready for Bueller. And I will say, I'm very excited with it when you picked this movie. And I even shouted it out to you. I was like, oh, man, you are spot on. This is awesome. So let me get my screen share going here. And you are on, Mr. Bueller. Oops,
okay. So as you guys can see, this is called The Imitation Game. This came out in 2014. This film is a race against time with the English mathematical genius Alan Turing, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. I always get that guy's name wrong.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Played by Doctor Strange. Okay. And his goal is to crack the German code Enigma during the World War II. And it's pretty much a real life story. I mean, these are actual events that happen. And this movie is the type of movie to where you see it and then you're like, I want to go find out more about this guy. And this is exactly what this movie did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very rare, I think, that before this movie, anybody had heard of Alan Turing before outside of the UK. I know in the UK he was very famous, but in the United States, I never heard people talk about when even Perry was like, when they talk about like computers, you hear Steve Jobs and you hear, all these other people before you hear Alan Turing.
Yeah. Yeah. He's basically the inventor of the computer. Maybe not in the ways we know our computers today or the desktops that we all the dinosaurs that we used to have, but his basic principle was how they made computers type thing. And this guy was tasked with he's a genius for one. The guy's an absolute mathematical genius. And it's during the World War II. And obviously the war is not going well. And there's a secret code that the Nazis in Germany is using to coordinate all their strikes and efforts like that. And it's called Enigma. And he is assigned to kind of break that code. He goes with another team. The team is very hesitant about having him on board in the movie. I don't know how much of that is real life. I'd be curious to know what the response was when they kind of joined forces.
Sure.
But they were very hesitant at first because he's a little odd. Obviously, he's very thinks to himself type thing, and he's not very social. And but as the movie progresses, and as the rest of the team comes to accept that his knowledge is what's going to do it, they then become more supportive. And by the second act of the movie, they're fully on board, and they all want to make sure to get this done. So there's so much more to this movie than what we're talking about too, and it's tragic what happened to this gentleman. But as time goes on, they finally get to the point where they invented this computer or the device. And it's called Christopher, is what it's called. That's what he named it. He had a childhood friend, and he named it after his friend who tragically died when they were growing up. Christopher works, and they are able, by accident almost, by comparing notes from a fellow translator or whatnot, and they use the words Heil Hitler to describe or to decipher the code. And then the computer works, and they literally find out all of the coordinates and all the attack things that the Nazis are going to do or Germany's going to do and all that stuff. So they run into the dilemma. And the dilemma right there, I didn't think about it during the whole movie until they got to that point. And the dilemma was, we can't use this information right off the bat, or they will know that we've deciphered the code type thing. So they have to strategically use the ones to decipher the code and when to use them and all that stuff, so the Germans won't know that they figured it out type thing. And that dilemma, the first thing they run into is one of the persons on the team, and I'm pretty sure this is just for the movie.
Yeah,
his brother is like on one of the ships that's about to get attacked type thing. And they ask Alan, they say, who are you to decide who lives and who dies? And he's like, we are the people who decide who lives and dies. And they really were. But eventually, and let's just say this, what this guy did, okay, changed the world, changed everything we know. They say at the end of the movie, I've done some research on him. He literally saved millions and millions of lives. He shortened the war by years, and not to mention the simple outcome of the war. I think that gets overlooked. He changed the outcome of the war.
Definitely.
Yes. And to think what after that all happened and the war was over and his life after that and what happened next, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'll take a little break. I'll let you guys jump in.
Absolutely. So, Perry, why don't you take over now, man?
Yeah, no, just to piggyback off what you said, I think historians went back because all this information was classified up until about 2011, until the Queen of England decided to pardon the information. And who knows how much information is even left to accurately go over what he did. But historians were able to figure out that shortened World War II by 2 years and saved an estimate of 14 million lives by the information that was provided, which is incredible. And the way he was erased from history and the way he was treated after the war is a disgrace. It is horrific. It is he passed away at 41. Imagine if he would have lived to 80. You know, what he did in a few years, creating the first type of mechanized computer system is incredible. And the fact that after that, they kind of just brushed him away. And it's sad, but I mean, this is one of the greatest movies I've seen on this show and probably one of the greatest movies I've seen in a very long time. I think Bueller's right. As soon as you watch this movie, I had like a slight rage of what I was seeing on screen and I wanted to know more because I'm like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
What does someone's sexuality have to do with him being a freaking genius?
Right.
It just blew my mind away. I was flabbergasted, if that word makes any sense. I don't know what it means, but it feels right to say
it. Oh, too funny, man. That's right. My computer is freezing for me.
I'm gonna drop that a 10 out of 10 right there.
There we go. Sorry.
Very good movie.
Yeah, I was really excited when you picked this one, Bueller, because I had seen it in theaters and was somewhat frustrated with it when I did a little research, and then haven't had the chance to rewatch it until now. And I will say I enjoyed it a lot more this second time. What frustrated me the first time is I did a little research and they obviously truncated the creation of the Christopher in a big way, and they added a lot of things to make movie magic kind of moments.
Yeah.
And I'm still really bothered by the whole my brother's on the boat thing. I felt like a little bit too far. They didn't need to go that far with it. It feels like okay, now it's like
I felt that kind of put it in perspective, though.
Yeah,
that kind of put it in perspective because there was. You got to think if someone's on a boat and these Germans know where all the boats are, it's not so far fetched that, hey, my brother's on that boat.
Yeah.
Because when someone's sailing back in World War II, they're like, oh, my brother's on the SS Mary 45. Right. And you're like, oh, my God, I see that. That's on the Germans' radar,
Sure.
Yeah, I think having that gentleman say that, it brought a more personal effect to it, and they needed that after the big reveal that they figured it out. Okay, they needed a more of just dots on a map type thing, and so having that as an example to have that personal effect on someone, I think that's what that was. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that's not the case.
It isn't. Yeah, at least, well, who knows? But I mean, it seems to not be the case. And there was obviously a lot of people that worked on the machine, and it wasn't just Alan, and they had to truncate a lot of that kind of stuff because it just doesn't play. And I totally understand. But for me, what I loved most about it the first and the second time was, like you were saying, the way they dovetail the history, the first part of his life and the second part of his life, right? The part of his life when he was saving so many lives during the war, and the second part of his life when people could care less and they were basically treating him one way just because of his sexual orientation. And it's those two pieces woven together are done so well. And Cumberbatch is phenomenal, as he is in pretty much everything. I've never really seen him blow it in anything. Just absolutely amazing performance, worthy of the Oscar nomination and everything that he got for it.
Well, the main tragedy of this, obviously, everything about the war, that's all tragic and stuff, and luckily that it was a great outcome as far as what they were able to do. Okay, like I said, save millions of people, shorten the war and all that stuff. But then, like you said, you mentioned they talk about later in his life and what happened. So he was gay, and apparently that's illegal or was illegal or whatnot in England or whatnot.
Yep.
And he had relations with a man, and they were caught, I guess, and he was going to go to jail. He was going to go to jail type thing. And he had the option from going to jail or getting castrated. That was the option, chemical castration. He chose chemical castration. He knew he wouldn't survive in jail. Nobody knows who this gentleman is at that point.
Yeah.
Nobody has any idea that he literally saved the world. I mean,
because his whole career was
classified
information. So the police that arrested him had no idea. Yeah. Not that it should have mattered, but like obviously it's almost more shocking when it's somebody of that level.
They thought he was a spy because they tried to do so much research on him, and everywhere they went was a dead end. They're like, this guy shouldn't exist, and he has these weird machines. He's a crazy scientist. He must be working for the Soviets or somebody.
Yeah, it was just extremely tragic. He eventually took his life. Obviously, it probably had a lot to do. I think there's a little bit up in the air as far as whether he took his life or he accidentally took his life. But it was because of the chemical castration and the things he was taking type thing.
Right.
But I mean, it was just to think that, and it's a movie to where, like, I've watched a lot of movies, and like, I'll watch movies about like times in the 50s or whatnot, where down south and people of color are treated differently type thing. And stuff like that just pisses me off, and this is kind of in the same boat,
Absolutely.
What race, religion, or sexuality, and to be treated that way or differently or look at that. And for something, I mean,
it's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. I can't wrap myself around looking at somebody and just by how they feel or what they look like type thing, and just being, yep, that person's not as good as I am type thing.
It's crazy.
And that's how the world was, or actually it still is in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, there's a lot, and when films can tap into that so effectively, I mean, I remember seeing like The Help. And when that movie came out, I don't know if you saw that, and it was like, I was enraged. I was laughing at other spots. I mean, it's an amazing movie too, but I had the same sort of visceral response, when you see that, the injustice on that level.
Yeah. And I also want to point out that, all the stuff we're talking about, like as far as his sexuality and stuff like that, like his relationship with the man, none of this is shown in the movie. This is all none. There's no actual him getting caught or anything like that.
This is like the very end of the movie, and it's you're seeing 2 hours of a hero being born.
He's telling the story is what he's doing. He's telling the story of his childhood, and then he's telling the story when he was working on it, and then what's happening to him now type thing. So there's no actual like footage of him or video shot of him having an affair or anything like that, or inappropriate. So there's nothing like that. So it leaves it up to us, the viewer, to kind of interpret it and say, wow, them not showing it had more of an effect on me than if they were to actually put it on screen.
Sure.
Right. So I'm sorry, I'll put the banner back up, Damien. We are talking about The Imitation Game. This was a film from just a few years ago, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, discussing the life, or at least a significant portion of the life, of Alan Turing, the man who sort of invented computers and helped stop the German Enigma program during World War II. This was Bueller's pick on our show this week. We had 4 movies to discuss. So obviously, Bueller, I'm assuming this is a stream it. And what would you score this one?
I would say it's a 10. It's a stream it. This is the type of movie to where it made me want to go do research. There's only a handful of movies, and not because of what we're talking about right now, but literally after I saw it, I was like, I want to go find out about this guy. Yep. I want to learn more. I'm interested in this subject type thing. And that's exactly what this movie did. And I can't say enough about it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And Mr. Perry, you said it was the highlight of all of the shows we've done so far for you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming it's a stream it.
It is a hands down stream it. If you don't have Netflix, pay to rent it. It's that good of a movie. Throw like $3 at it. You know, this kind of made me feel like when I watched The Aviator. Like you watch a movie about a historical person that you don't really know anything about, and it piques your interest so much that you just want to spend a couple hours or like a half an hour and just Google him or watch like a YouTube documentary on the guy. You know, so yes, I highly recommend it.
I love Carlito pulling up JFK's quote here. We all inhabit this earth, breathe the same air. It's spot on.
You gotta read it with the accent. Come on, man. What are you doing?
I'm not going to do that.
Come on, John.
So yeah, this is definitely a stream it for me as well. I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. That for some reason that
man, that's bugging you, huh?
It does bug me a little bit. Like it just feels like I could hear the writer thinking, "Oh, this would be a great idea." Yeah. I don't hear the honesty like you do in the rest of the movie. So that one scene really bugged me. It just was like pushed a little too far. But yeah, great movie. You should definitely check it out. And yeah, top to bottom, really, really talented people doing everything there.
If we're talking about far-fetchedness in the movie, it seemed a little far-fetched that he went up to his commanding officer and said, "Who's your commanding officer?" And then wrote a letter and sent it to Churchill, right? And, you know, like what? I don't see that happening. Maybe it did. Who knows? But it just seemed a little Hollywood for me, you know?
I could see something eccentric like that, him doing it type thing. Because that's how that guy's mind probably worked.
Probably.
Thing.
Well, and then depending on what book you read or what account you have of him, his personality had varying degrees of what is presented in the film as far as his we have several characters this week with levels of OCD and attitudes about things, and I think from what I understand, Turing wasn't maybe as extreme as Benedict portrays him, but at the same time, certainly wasn't your average computer whiz.
Oh, yeah.
So that is our Skip It or Stream It show today. I really want to thank Bueller for coming on and watching these movies with us, man. You have great analysis, man.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about Roadhouse now?
For the second hour, we go to Roadhouse.
Nobody has that much time.
Seriously, John, I had a great time. Even Perry's pick. I mean, I had to watch it. Whatever, right? But I always like talking about stuff like this. I try to come prepared, and then hopefully I did. But thank you so much for having me on. And Perry, I enjoyed talking with you as well.
Yeah.
We might not agree on Raiders of the Lost Ark, but you have every right to be wrong.
Yeah.
So if you guys, I'm sure you know Bueller's channel. I've linked it down below. If you haven't seen his Dueling Bueller's video from, what was it, Thursday?
Thursday or Friday, I don't know.
It was amazing. You should totally watch it. It flashed me back to Multiplicity, which is an underrated movie that I really love. So great. Just loved it. You should definitely check that out.
Yeah, that's an ongoing series now. That's going to be out every Friday going forward. And coffee video tomorrow. I already filmed it. It's already waiting for you guys.
Boom. Ready for that. And then Mr. Perry, what do you got coming up here? We missed you on Friday late night. What's going on?
No, I had my son. He was sick, so he threw up on the couch like 20 minutes before. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna cool it tonight, And
he must have watched Hospital.
No, let's see. What's today's? Today's Sunday. So Monday I'll probably do a video and I'll upload it. Maybe Tuesday. I don't know at this point.
But he's always going to be there with Buyer Pass, Coast to Coast, Community Shout Out, those kind of things. Lurkin. I'm
gonna start my Lurkin stream again. Those were.
And we got Perry Gaming as well. You can check Perry's gaming.
John's favorite segment, the gaming.
Hey, I allow myself a couple days a week for video games, and now you've got the cocaine addict back twitching for more. So thanks everybody for coming by. We should hopefully be back in another week here with Fire Guy Ryan coming back around for another round. So these are all movies you can find on Netflix. I hope you enjoy them. If there's something you see on Netflix, you want to leave a comment down below, please do that. If you watch one of these three or you've seen them and you want to tell us your reviews, we'd be happy to hear them, and you can drop that down below. Thank you to people in the chat, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Find something good to stream. Bye-bye.